What's up, guys? We are back for another review. Today we're taking a look at something a little different for me in terms of the license and the manufacturer and the brand and all that stuff. So today we're taking a look at a Diamond Select Real Ghostbusters figure. We're taking a look at SLIMER. So this guy comes in the kind of quintessential Diamond Select packaging. It's humongous, the box is massive. I don't really care for these packages. I think they're way too big, but at the same time, this guy does have a humongous diorama piece in there, so they kind of have to be big. We've got SLIMER here in the big window. You can see his stand. We've got the firehouse pieces behind him. The side of this box has a shot of SLIMER, and then the back of the box has got a shot of SLIMER along with the other figures in the line, as well as a bit of a write-up. So let's pull them out and take a look. All right, guys, here we go. We've got our SLIMER figure out of the package. This is a line I've been really looking forward to. I was a humongous fan of the Real Ghostbusters, and I still am. I love the movies. I'm not a humongous Ghostbusters fan, like it's not my thing by any means, and I have never bought any of the Diamond Select Ghostbusters. I didn't buy any of the Mattel stuff. The only thing I have are the vintage toys, so I'm familiar with those. And then when I think of Ghostbusters, more often than not, a lot of times I think of the cartoon, just because I watched so much of it. So this figure and this line in general is one I've really been looking forward to. So it's really nice to finally have these guys in hand. After watching this review, if you want to snag one for yourself, you can get them at Big Bad Toy Store. I'll put a link down below. But let's get right into it. And I'm going to take a look first at the stand, because while I am really excited about this particular figure, I do have a couple gripes. And the biggest one is this stand, because SLIMER is enormous. Well, not enormous. He's heavy. He's very big. He's solid. And this stand is about as wobbly as it comes. I've had to take it apart and kind of resize it a bit, because this is like the same kind of stand that Diamond uses with a lot of figures. I've got it with the Nightmare Before Christmas figures most recently that I purchased, and it's the same kind of stand. It's modular, so you can kind of resize it a bit. Like I'm missing this piece in there right now, the little guy, and it just wants to fall over. Like you can see right now, even though it's turned so that the hinges are facing side to side, they're not facing forward, he just wants to like lean forward. I'm really concerned that this thing is not capable of supporting his weight, so I may have to figure out another situation for it. I mean, that is not safe looking. I'm really concerned that this thing is going to fall apart. That said, you know, it seems to be holding fine just now, but it's taken quite a bit of work to get to this point, so I'm just going to leave it there. I don't think it's necessarily the best stand for this figure, so I'm probably going to take it off for the majority of this review, but we're going to take a look at, you know, the rest of the figure, his accessories, and we're, of course, going to start with articulation, because we've got to see what this little guy can do. So to move him around, we need to take him off the stand at the very least, just because he'd likely fall off anyway. It's SLIMER. You're not going to get a ton of articulation out of this guy. It's really just the arms, and I think they did a pretty good job. Joints are pretty tight on him, but not in a bad way. They're just not loose. They're just tight. So arms are hinged, so they can go out, and then you can rotate them all the way around. Nothing really gets in the way. And then you've got a single jointed elbow, but that's more than 90 degrees, not much more, but it's more. And then you've got rotation and hinges at the wrist. So, you know, he doesn't have tons of articulation, but it's SLIMER. What more would you really expect? He's not supposed to have too much articulation. I think they did a pretty good job. And some of the joints are pretty well hidden. Those elbows are really, really nice. A lot of movement there. And in general, he just has what I would have expected to get. Articulation aside, the real draw for this figure, this line in general really is the look. For me, this is what I've wanted. I've wanted a cartoon Ghostbusters line. This does it for me on a lot of levels. I'm not 100% happy with this figure in terms of its deco and one of its kind of sculpted details, but in a general sense, just looking dead on him, like right now, what you're seeing on the camera right now, I'm so happy with to finally have in figure form, something that I can hold. I think it works really, really well. Diamond's done a really good job of sculpting this guy to make him look like he's kind of in motion, like the slime is oozing down his body. You can kind of see the ripple effect that goes down. He's got a nice matte paint job. There's no glossiness going on with this figure, so it very much looks cartoony, like he was just ripped right out of the screen. You can see more of that kind of ripple texture that runs down the arms. He's got the black fingernails, and then you've got this big SLIMER butt here. So if you've ever wanted one of these in your life, you now have one. This is the peg hole for the stand that we talked about previously. You can see it's not very big, so that on its own could lend itself to not standing up very well, just because of the fact that he is so weighty. So in general, you know, in the general sense, I think he looks pretty solid. I'm really happy with the general aesthetic of this figure. I think they nailed that. I think this whole line so far, from what I've seen, has nailed that look really, really well. My big gripes come around the head region, and not specifically the head, but how they've kind of made the head work with the swappable face aspect. So you probably already saw it. I've got this right here, this big line right here, this big seam. So the head itself pops right off, and you've got this big hole right here, which it just pops in, and then you put it back down. But that seam is really unsightly, and some of the other heads are even worse. It's like they're a different sculpt down here at the bottom. But in a general sense, because we do have to talk about the face, I think they did a pretty good job with this kind of general face. This is the one that he comes with in the package. So he's got the, the really expressive eyes. He's got his mouth open. He's got his tongue out. I do have a few nicks on the tongue, which is unfortunate. You can kind of see the green that's showing through there. But then you've got the teeth and the gum line. And it's all painted for the most part pretty well. But again, it all comes down to the cartoon look. And I think this very much looks like the cartoon. So it's not so much in the sculpt on the face itself or the paint really. A lot of it is just this. Like, that looks really unsightly to me. Something about that is just odd. Like, the tolerance is all wrong there, it seems. These pieces just don't really seem to fit together all that well. And we'll talk about the other faces in just a second, because of course I've got to show you the accessories that he comes with. But taken at face value, just looking at that, this is still the Slimer that I've wanted. Of course, I don't 100% love that line there, but I think he looks perfect. When you're looking dead on at him, there's really no problems with him. It's only when you kind of get him at a profile that it's kind of weird. Now, in terms of accessories, if you don't count the stand, and I don't really, because it's integral to the figure. It's not something you don't want. You kind of need it. We've got two extra faces. So like I just showed you, you pop that head off, the face off, because you don't really pull the neck off. You just pull the face off, and you've got a mad Slimer face. So he is scowling. He's got some teeth hanging out. His brow is furrowed. In general, the same thing. It's not too bad. It's more of the seam line thing, though, and we're going to show you that here in a second. You can also see some seam lines on the face itself that, like, they're not perfect, but they're not bad either. And then you've got the happy one here, which I really like this one. It's really nicely sculpted. And more of the teeth popping out, and it's just, it's the polar opposite to this face. So you've got the mad, you've got the happy, and then you've got the crazy. So we can pull this guy off here, and you've got your void there, you fill it, and you just pop this guy in, and it fits really nicely on this side. Like, it's not perfect, but that's doable. That's really serviceable. But then, like this here, you've got to really work this in, and it still doesn't really fit all that nice. It's odd. It's really weird. This is the worst one of the three for sure. It just does not want to fit in there correctly. The more I push, the better it gets, but then at the same time, like, you can see that this piece here is starting to jut into the back, which is just... it's odd. It's really weird. It's like some tolerances weren't set correctly when these were manufactured, maybe. I'm just sort of spitballing here. I have no idea, really. And then you've got the angry face, and pop it on. More of the same with this one. So, if you push hard enough, you're going to get it on there, but I really feel like I'm forcing it way too hard at this point. And you just keep going. So, dead on, they look fine. And ultimately, maybe that's not a problem. But at the same time, it's kind of weird, right? So you've got the three faces for options here, and they look good, they look fine, they look great when you're looking straight at them, but I think something's going on weird with how they fit. I shouldn't have to be pushing that hard, I don't think, and then, really that seam line shouldn't be there. Now, beyond the faces that he comes with as far as accessories goes, he does come with a piece of the fire station. So series 6 through 10, I believe is what it says on the package, all come with pieces of the firehouse to build, the fire station from the movie. So you've got this big guy here. He does come with a massive piece. This is part of the front fascia of the building. And I don't really have a lot to say about it. I'm not building this. Like I said, I have never bought these figures before then. I have no interest in building the firehouse. I have no interest in the other movie figures. But you've got this enormous piece of plastic that also comes with it there. And it's painted pretty well. It's a big piece. It's got a lot of details on it. That's about all I'm going to say. There it is. It does come with the figure. So at the end of the day, this figure does have some issues. The face seams and the issues just pushing those pieces together really does seem like a problem. I do think the stand really isn't all that great. It just seems like it's too flimsy to hold this guy up in any appreciable way. You just got to angle it the right way, and even then it still leans over quite a bit. But overall, I do think the look is really well done. I think Diamond did a good job on the sculpt. I think they did a great job on the paint. And this is ultimately the Slimer I've wanted for a really long time. So I am still pretty happy with it. I just think it's not a perfect figure, so don't go into it expecting a perfect figure. But if you're like me and have wanted a real Ghostbusters line for a long time, I think you're going to be pretty happy with it despite these problems. So that's going to do it for this look at the Diamond Select Real Ghostbusters Slimer figure. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share. And until next time.